Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Forum Daily West. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. It is voting day in the Windy City, as we shall soon find out who the new MLA will be for Lethbridge West. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says the ball is in NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's court to topple the troubled Liberal government. And Ottawa announced that it is pushing its target to achieve a net zero electricity grid back 15 years to the year 2050. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, it is voting day for the Lethbridge West by-election. The three candidates vying for Shannon Phillips' old riding are the UCP's John Middleton Hope, the NDP's Rob Miyashiro, and the Alberta Party's Leighton Vaverka. BCN's Landon Hickok is at one of the polling stations, the Crossings branch of the Lethbridge Public Library, and explains how easy it really is to vote. Landon.
That's right, Hal. There is still time to put your vote in if you are a Lethbridge West resident. I'm here at the Lethbridge Public Library Crossings branch, where there's a makeshift voting center where citizens can vote for their support for either John Middleton Hope of the UCP, Rob Miyashiro of the NDP, or Leighton Vaverka of the Alberta Party. If you're still planning to vote in person at one of the many voting centers in West Lethbridge, and if you're over the age of 18, there are many simple ways to prove your identity. One of the more common ways is to bring one piece of government-issued ID that contains your full name, your current address, and a photo of yourself. You can also bring two pieces of ID, both containing the full name of yourself and one that does contain the current address that you currently live in. You can also have another registered elector with identification who resides in the same voting area. They can vouch for you on your behalf. You can also have an authorized signatory complete an attestation form for you. The Chief Electoral Officer has approved more than 50 different types of identification for you to use when you come to vote in person. All ballots will start being counted after polls close at 8 p.m., and it may take time to count all the ballots and decide a winner, since it's projected to be a close race between Rob Miyashiro and John Middleton Hope. Hal?
Love that energy. Thanks so much, Landon. By the way, BCN will have the by-election results for you when they become available, including on our social media X account. The calls for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to resign continue ahead of the Christmas holidays. New Brunswick MP Wayne Long says up to 50 Liberal MPs have joined the push in Parliament to oust Trudeau. Trudeau found himself in political hot water this week following the resignation of Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland ahead of the fall fiscal update. While the PM was not publicly made any statements on the matter, he says he's taking some time to reflect on everything that has happened. MPs will return to the House of Commons from their holiday break on January the 27th. Jeremy Prest and David Craig from Citizen here on Miracle Channel will unpack the growing unrest within the Liberal Party of Canada. They'll be joined by insights from the Blender Report to discuss the leadership of Justin Trudeau and the recent resignation of Chrystia Freeland from Cabinet.
We have to realize how impactful these tariffs potentially could be. We're sitting on the edge of economic warfare. At the same time, you have your finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, step down in the face of probably its gravest challenge it's had. I don't know. Trump's a business guy, and he sees opportunities for deals and making things done. He'll get it done, right?
Yeah. Make sure you catch the full episode on Miracle Channel this Friday at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time or on the Citizen YouTube channel. Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says with all of the turmoil within the Liberal Party, he's calling on NDP leader Jagmeet Singh to topple the Liberal government once and for all.
The decision to call an axe the tax election is up to Jagmeet Singh, and Jagmeet Singh alone. He has got to end his hypocrisy and stop selling out the people and put his votes where his words are to trigger an election, to join with me in signaling non-confidence to bring down this government as soon as legally possible, using any means legally possible.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump continues to take shots at Canada. In a social media post, Trump says that many Canadians do in fact want their country to become the 51st state of the United States. He suggested that such a move would save on taxes, give them military protection, and that he thinks it's a great idea. Trump has had Canada in his sights for weeks now, often referring to Prime Minister Trudeau as Governor Trudeau. The social media taunting has also come with the real economic threat of massive tariffs unless Ottawa stops the flow of migrants and illegal drugs stateside. Japanese automakers Nissan Motor Corporation and Honda Motor Company have confirmed that they are discussing closer collaboration, but denied reports that they've decided on a merger. When we return, we'll have more of the top stories from the West with Forum Daily West. The federal government announced that it is pushing its target to achieve a net zero electricity grid back 15 years to the year 2050. Officials say it is part of the new clean electricity regulations announced this week. Ottawa previously said it wanted to decarbonize all electricity grids by 2035, but received a lot of pushback from both Alberta and Saskatchewan that it was not doable. Premier Danielle Smith has said that Alberta would mount a legal challenge, saying the regulations wade into provincial jurisdiction. She said that is a case Alberta fully expects to win. Well, it turns out the GST tax holiday is becoming a real pain for a number of small business owners across the country. The federal government is pausing the levy on a number of items, including prepared foods and toys, until mid-February. Beverly Rasmussen is a small business expert from Langley, British Columbia, who's worked with more than 700 small business owners. She says this GST holiday is becoming a real fiasco for many.
No one asked small business owners whether this was a good idea or not. You know, I'll give you a direct quote from a client of mine. I can't wait to spend December 12, 13, and 14 manually reviewing every SKU I have to temporarily adjust the tax status, only to be able to do it again on Valentine's Day. What a nightmare. So here we're at the busiest time of year, Christmas, and you know, when their staff are maxed, and now then they're going to have to do it again in New Year. Plus it covers over 2 tax years for most business owners. So if you consider the cost of accounting, dealing with a tax issue this year and next year, it's money, time, productivity. Yeah, it is definitely a nightmare, as the client says.
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is holding Alberta government's officials' feet to the fire since the province promised to reduce the income tax bracket from 10 to 8% in the new year. The UCP said this provincial income tax cut would save families around $1,500 each. Chris Sims, the Alberta director of the CTF, says families need that kind of relief right now.
A lot of folks in Alberta are doing better compared to other places in Canada, but as you know, Hal, we still have record lineups for places like food banks and record demand from working families. That's a nice way of saying that a parent who's holding down a job is still counting on donated jars of peanut butter to feed their kids. So that's a serious concern here in Alberta. We've also got fuel costs. Winter is here. We've got home heating costs. A lot of folks are finding it really unaffordable. And so this is why we are urging the Alberta government to keep its promise in the new year and cut that income tax rate. Most of the tax increases that we're anticipating in the new year, there's always New Year's tax changes, are going to be federal. The big one that people are going to notice is going to be the carbon tax going up on April 1st. So again, it's going to be going up lockstep. So on average, it's going to cost you more to fill up your minivan, more to fill up your pickup truck, more for a trucker to fill up his big rig tanks with diesel, which of course increases the cost of everything. We're also going to see what's often referred to as payroll taxes go up. Those are typically the automatic and mandatory taxes that you pay through Canadian pension, employment insurance, and that your employer, your job creator, pays as well. So people will probably notice that, hey, their actual paycheck goes down. That's often because of payroll tax increases. That's all happening federally next year too. We're also going to see a bump in alcohol taxes as well.
That was Chris Sims, Alberta director of the CTF, who joined us from Lethbridge. Generosity helps make the world a better place. And many say that Canada is a friendly place, but what about our generosity? A recent study says generosity in our fine country is consistently decreasing. Grady Munro, policy analyst with the Fraser Institute and co-author of the study called Generosity in Canada, the 2024 Generosity Index, has more.
So what we found is that generosity in Canada has been declining for many years now. And how we measure that is we look at 2 metrics. We look at the share of Canadian tax filers who are donating to charity, and we look at the share of total income that is donated. And what we find is that in 2022, which is the latest year of data, both of those metrics hit 20-year lows. We saw that only 17.1% of Canadian tax filers donated to charity, and only 0.5% of total income was donated.
Make sure you catch the entire interview with Grady Munro from the Fraser Institute and BCN's Jeanette Rocher coming up later in our broadcast. The City of Lethbridge says the Canada Post postal workers strike severely impacted those who are needing a business or a dog license. City officials say around 12,000 renewals should wait for their renewal notice after January 1st, which is typically the due date for renewing. Now, because of this, owners will not incur a financial penalty after the 1st due to the Canada Post work stoppage. Delays in the mail are still expected as 55,000 postal workers returned to work earlier this week. Business owners are asked to keep proof of their invoice payments until the new license has arrived. Costumes, volunteers, and animals are all set for Emmanuel Lutheran Church of Lethbridge's Live Nativity. Now, the community is invited to come out this Friday to remember the reason for the season. The church's Director of Community Outreach, Janice Anton, explains how this new initiative came about.
We're looking into doing some more decorating at our church this year. And throughout that process of doing some Christmas decorating, we thought, why don't we do this live nativity, open it up to our community, our surrounding neighbors to come and join in to learn about the birth of Christ and his importance in our lives, the significance of the Christmas season, right? Putting Christ in Christmas, looking at the actual miracle, not only of his birth, but also just the miracle of his life, his death, and how important that is for us as Christians. Lots of live animals, variety, donkeys, goats, chickens, bunnies, roosters, turkeys, all sorts of different animals coming. Time for the children to come and maybe pet the animals, visit with the animals in between the actual live nativity itself.
The event will take place this Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the church, which is located at 20 Rocky Mountain Boulevard West, right here in Lethbridge. Every holiday season, there are a lot of parties that are going on. Chances are that alcohol may be involved in the festivities, which can lead to poor decisions such as driving while impaired. Well, there's technology now where devices are readily available to self-test your own blood alcohol level. Elizabeth Isfeld, the chapter secretary for the Lethbridge area chapter for Mothers Against Drunk Driving, however, advises against the practice of self-testing.
If you need to rely on a device to self-test your ability to drive, should you maybe think again and call a cab? You are putting your life and others at risk. You think you may not have had too much to drive, or you may not have had too much to consume. Do not depend on a device. Depend on yourself to make a better decision, and do not drive.
Make sure you catch the full interview with Mad Canada's Elizabeth Isfeld and BCN's Naveen Day coming up later in our show. The folks in Lebanon welcome the Christmas season with markets and parades following the ceasefire that ended close to 14 months of war between Israel and Hezbollah.
أول شيء الحمد لله نخلص الحرب. ثاني شيء الأحوال بلبنان على طول ولعانة، ونحن اللبنانيين بنحب الجو وما نقول لا بكل الاوكيجنز، وبنحب الحياة، بنحب المناسبات، بنحب نحتفل وننبسط. We don't give up anytime.
هو اللبناني شو ما يعملوا بدنا نعيش وبدنا نعيش. هاي هي أجواءنا وهيدا شعبنا اللي ما بيموت وما بيستسلم على شيء أكيد.
Hundreds of volunteers and emergency workers continue to clean up the coastline of Russia's southern Krasnodar region. 2 Russian ships spilled around 3,300 tons of low-grade fuel oil into the Kerch Strait. Authorities say around 35 kilometers of coastline have been contaminated after the ships were seriously damaged during stormy weather. A state of emergency was declared for several districts.
В стране такая общая беда, а эта беда – это экология. Очень хочется помочь и внести какой-то свой вклад в то, чтобы наша Анапа была, как всегда, замечательным курортом. Я думаю, что завтра и в пятницу на выходных также будем здесь.
Это общая земля, все здесь отдыхать к нам приезжают. Ну, не только приезжают, мы сами здесь отдыхаем, мы тоже местные жители, поэтому и дети здесь все наши. Поэтому это нужно в любом случае убрать, чтобы как минимум к лету уже наш родной пляж был в порядке.
An Indiana man convicted of killing 4 people, including his brother and sister's fiancé, was put to death on Wednesday. It marked the state's first execution in 15 years.
So we're outside the Indiana State Prison, and the state of Indiana has executed by lethal injection a death row inmate who's been on death row since 1999. This is Indiana's first execution in 15 years, and that is partly because there has been a shortage of the drug that's been used to execute people. Mr. Corcoran's wife, Tahina Corcoran, she spoke with reporters after she visited him during the visiting hours today.
We talked about our memories. We talked about what is going to take place. And we talked about the fact that we both believe in Jesus and that we believe someday that we will see each other again.
That's your Forum Daily West report. I'm Hal Roberts. Thanks so much for watching.